Hello, James here from Cobra Engineering. Today I'm going to show you how to put the cooling mod in. We're going to cover everything from knocking the freeze plug out of the passenger side head to actually installing this one on my own engine right back here. Let's get right to it. Alright, I'm going to show you what I got on the table here. We're going to start with, I got a drill with a nice brush on there. I like to make sure this freeze plug's cleaned out. Some oil, 220, 400, and fine Scotch-Brite. A hammer, a center punch of some kind, a couple pliers just to grab that freeze plug. And here you can see all the components that'll come when you buy it. There's also the hose, but I have that one already installed. Here's the original piece that you'll be removing from the head. We'll cover that better later. Including this hose with a restrictor in there you're going to want to remove. This is a factory hose that goes from this to the firewall, and this is the one that goes from the firewall to the tube on the back of the engine there. So I just thought a quick review of what I got on the table here. Let's get right into doing this freeze plug. All right, like I said previously, I use the drill with the little brush on there, little brake clean or WD-40, whatever you got to do to get in there and clean that out. Cut down the chances of getting junk in the engine. Now obviously if you're sending your heads out to the machine shop after, you're not nearly as concerned about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the center punch and we're going to get as much in the middle as we can and give it a good whack. Not enough to knock it all the way in though. We're just going to take the relief off, because what you got to picture, here's a freeze plug from Ford. There's a sharp edge on here, and that's what's grabbing in this aluminum all the way around here. So by knocking it in the middle, you're taking that and you're just taking like a cup and you're pushing it away. And you're relieving that edge just a little bit. It's going to give you a better chance to not scrape that bore. Not perfect, but it's going to give you a chance. So just take the center punch in there, maybe give it a pretty good whack. You want to see it move. All right, I see it moved a little bit and it actually went in just a hair. So now I go to one side. Now if you were in under the car and this was still in the car and you had the tranny out, you're going to want to think which way you want to pivot that. I suggest hitting it down here and pivot this way. That way you can still see if there's scores here. If you're top and bottom, you'll never see on the bottom. So just take it on the bottom like this. See how it's turning? There. That turned good. I like to use a little vice grips if I can. Get a good, and then you're kind of prying down here to pull this out. And yes, that is going to score, I can already tell. So maybe try to work it a little bit. There you go. Got that out. Now, I doubt you're going to be able to see in there, but I can guarantee there's a little score there and a little score on this side, but I could see it's honestly not bad at all. So, I do have 220. Like if yours is really bad, take a piece of 220. I wouldn't call this a finishing paper. Clean that up. You get in there with a rag with some oil on it. A little oil is going to be your friend here. It's going to grab that dirt and that crap and keep it from getting in your engine. And then you keep working that. Now this is coming out really nice. I'm surprised, frankly. These are just old heads I had laying around. In fact, it's a B head. It's the only one I had with the freeze plug in it. Then I go end up with the 400 grit, and I'm working that around, and I'm working that around until that, I mean, it just looks nice. And I like to finish with a Scotch-Brite, but 400 grit honestly is enough. The O-ring's gonna seal. This already looks pretty impressive. I'm shocked. I don't see those score lines in there anywhere. You know, you got a chance when that plug goes in there. There you go. That's basically the secret to that. You can see how the punch kicked that cup out and relieved the edges of that. Now we'll move on to the engine. All right, now you can see I have these beautiful clean heads I got from Chris Starnes. Did a great job on these. They're gonna make some serious power. Now I don't have the O-rings on here just for demonstration purposes, but of course, what's my rule? Never install an O-ring dry. You get a little oil on that O-ring, a little grease, something. I don't care if you use motor oil, whatever you gotta do. You're gonna put them on there. So, you can see on this one, this bracket comes down for this return hose from the heater. You can bend that out. You can cut that off. It's probably not doing much, frankly. This goes in the top ring of that plug. So you're going to want to get that out of the way as best you can. Slip that behind there. Wiggle that in, turn it, do what you got to do. That's why I put a hex head on there. Get that, oh, I got the bracket backwards. You think I would know better than that. But there you go. So there's this other style one, that goes on that side. Then you can just get a screw in there to start. I include all the hardware. Like I said, we're not going to get crazy here. This is just for demonstration. And then on this side, this is where you're going to want to install this. And this is where I wouldn't tighten this fitting in yet, because you can literally use this fitting to tighten up that. And it's a lot easier to turn the head fitting than it is this one. Oh, of course I'm struggling. It's camera time, right? We're good there. Now we'll just prop that up out of the way a little. Now this side's going to be even easier because of this. There's nothing in the way. We're just going to put that in, wiggle that O-ring in, make sure that O-ring's lubed just like the other side. You got 2 screws. Same thing. Now, I already pre-measured this. This hose happens to be 1 foot long. This is a 4.6 liter. I include 15 inches of hose. In case you got a 5.4, a different setup, you got to trim and put this hose together yourself. I'm not going to do a video on how to put hoses together. You know, everybody knows how to do that. Plenty of videos out there. Ideally, you want this vertical, and I'll show you why. We can leave that hang. Because the OEM is right here. You can see, that's how you know what bracket to use. It's basically the same thing. And that goes right there, and you can see it's pretty much vertical. This hose goes here to the firewall. This hose goes here to the firewall. This hose you're not going to have to touch. Obviously this one you're going to have to take off. You don't have to take it off up here, but you're going to have to get it off of this so you can get this out. That's the nice thing. You take this out, I'd still clean this hole with some Scotch-Brite or some sandpaper, 400 grit sandpaper or 600. You want that clean. Just because that O-ring was in there doesn't mean another O-ring's going to seal. I did engineer it to put the O-ring in the same place, but you know better than that. It's aluminum. It's going to corrode. It's going to have problems. Clean it up. Now I'm going to show you, as you see, that's a very simple install. There's nothing special to it. You're basically bringing heads, the 2 heads together, and you're using the stock routing. Now you don't have hot coolant pooling in the back of your driver's side head. Now I'll show you on the table, removing that restrictor from here. That's going to give you more flow. All right. Here we're going to remove this restrictor. You can kind of see there's a bump there, and this is what holds it in place. That's there to restrict coolant flow to your heater core, because as we all know, if coolant moves through the heater core or radiator too fast, it doesn't transfer the heat. And of course they want to get the optimal heat in a passenger car that's designed to work down to 10 below. Well, we ain't driving our Cobra at 10 below. We're not worried about that. We want optimal cooling. We want the flow. There'll be plenty of heat. Now you're gonna laugh at me because I haven't done this in over 10 years on one of these. So all you do is get a screwdriver in there and loosen that bracket up, or that clamp, I guess is what it, you know, just work it off. No heroes here, it just sucks. Try to straighten that out as much as possible. Then you should be able to squeeze it down. And as you see, there's a hook on this side. If you can get that off, that's bonus. But if you can just get it loose enough to get it right off, that works too. Now, what I like to do is a little WD-40 in there and work that around. Try to get something to slide on a hose. I got a hose clamp here. We're going to try that first. And what you're doing is you're pinching this, and you're basically pushing it out. Trying to push it out through here. It's going very slowly. Try to get in there with some pliers, but I don't think so. Remember, if it comes apart, we don't care, right? We're just going to clean it up. Get it twisting around in there, get it moving. We're just going to fast forward this struggle. There we go, I got it. There it is. So you see, it's just a piece of plastic in there with a little restrictor. Now it's all wide open. Clean that oil off that hose. I don't like leaving oil on rubber hoses. It can deteriorate. Now when you go to take this off, if it's still on the car, this is where you got to pinch these two things in to release. Well, there you go. Piece of cake. That's all installed. Of course, it's on a stand. It's a piece of cake. If you're doing it without the transmission in the car and you're on a lift, it's a little tedious, but just get a good light in there. Feel around with your finger. Make sure those bores aren't scored. And a quick tip that I didn't cover when I put this in, it was a lot easier to screw that plug on to the T-fitting manifold here before you screw it on here. You didn't have that bracket in the way to interfere. Thanks for watching, and I hope that helps out. Of course, check these out at cobraengineering.com, or you can email me at cobratechtalk.com.